Well, folks, good evening to you one and all. And I know I like to say it every Wednesday, but I do say it every single Wednesday. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. It is the big one, the one that we do every first Wednesday of the month, and that is the Sports and GT. Sorry, not the Sports and GT Masters. It's the GT3 Series, which is the national series, which is backed by Motorsport South Africa. Coming to you live from the studios down in wet and cold but friendly Cape Town is the studios in Velgeregen. And joining me for tonight, the voice of West Promise Motorsport, Frankie Yenis. Frankie, tonight is going to be one of the best for a long, long time of what we've seen and what we're going to be seeing in iRacing in South Africa.
Yes, Gaza, good day. Hello, everybody. This is going to be absolutely phenomenal. We come to you from the Red Bull Ring in Spielberg in Austria, formerly known as the A1 Ring. And the track temperature is 32 degrees, outside is 18, partly cloudy, 13k an hour wind, and we are 677 meters above sea level. Well, here we go. From the Red Bull Ring, which I think is a very lovely track. It's also the home of the Austrian Formula 1 Grand Prix. And there is, I think, 28 or 29 competitors that will be out on the track for this one today. Proudly sponsored to you by Canvas Intelligence.
Yep, a big thanks to Canvas Intelligence for the 2023 season of MSA iRSA, iRacing South Africa, Motorsport South Africa. And let's have a quick shofty before the guys start putting their times up. That's the likes of Leighton Ferree that you see on your screen. There's Zach Foster on his way out onto the Red Bull Ring. There's Sandra Bakari that's out there as well. He likes that Ferrari of his. Raymond Duggan in the Toyo Tires entry. Alwyn Sykes back with us again. Very similar delivery to that of Jason Kutsia. Andrew Thomas, the man from Carbs and Coffee. He's gone with the Porsche look. Stephen Duplessis out there as well.
That's Stephen Duplessis. Then we've got Stephen Cakebread out there with the BMW. And then Luke Lucchesi, one of three cars. That's exactly the same color. Luke is... oh, there's another one. Now there's four cars that are the same. That will then be Tristan de Nobrega in that number 70. The 77 is Jason Kutsia. That's out on the circuit. JJ van der Merwe in that lime green Mercedes-Benz. And, well, now there's more because Leon van Wyk. So, Gaza, we now have 5 cars that have got exactly the same color scheme. And all 5 of them are Porsches.
Stephen Vessels, Byron Mitchell's out there as well. And in the first of the Team Durant Motorsport, there's Umpi Swart. There's the King Johan Ferree, multiple South African main circuit champion. Julian Familiaris, the mobile V8 man. Graham Stephen from Cape Town. He likes his gold colors. Und Willem Botha out there as well. 3 minutes 18 into the session. And here the times start to come through. The man, the first man to pick up... Oh, well, I'll tell you what, this is going to just change and change. The top 18 in the practice session was all within 1 second of one another. So the first of the big hitters to fire the shot is Leighton Ferree. Umpi Swart says, good day. I'll join you on the front row of the grid.
Yeah, a 129.327 for Umpi. 129.623, a PB there for Julian Familiaris in the Durant Motorsport Ferrari. Luke Lucchesi sits there 4/10 of a second off pole sitter. And Jason Kutsia 4/10 off the pole sitter in the Mint Wrapworks and Durant Motorsport BMW. Stefan Wessels out there in P7, 5/10 off Umpi Swart in that 27 car. Then Byron Mitchell for Durant Motorsport and Dolphin Engineering. He sits in P8, 5/10 of a second off pole sitter. And then Jacques Botha in P9, 6/10 off Yuri Swart. Sure, so far, Gaza, the first 13 cars within a second.
Well, we saw it in the practice, the 1 hour practice, that there was a little bit earlier on. And, well, I think this is going to be one of the best of the best of the best. Stephen Vessels puts in a 129.715. Oh, Luke King comes in. And Byron Mitchell, that's Byron Mitchell's second lap. The second of the Durant Motorsport cars. So Julian Familiaris is alongside provisionally Byron Mitchell in the two Durant Motorsport cars. And then Umpi Swart is going to be, he's finished his fastest laps, so he can't go out any further. Julian Familiaris, he goes onto the front row of the grid with Umpi Swart.
Yeah, a 129.373 there for Julian, with 5.5 minutes done out of the 10 minutes qualifying session. 90 minutes race. Wow, that's going to be some entertaining stuff. Tristan de Nobrega sitting up there in 12th with a personal best of a 129 as we watch the Bass cars go through. I think that might be Chase Herald.
Yep.
Then Gerald Fourie in that 99 drive-away Porsche. They all got the same Porsches and color schemes. There's 5 of them out there that look identical except for their numbers. And he sits so far in P15. And he's one of that 15 drivers that is in within a second of each other.
Let's see what Gerald Fourie does, the father of Leighton Fourie. Can he go any further forward? Nope, that's as far as he can go, and won't be able to get any further than that. So that's where we are. For those of you that have just joined us, we're at the Red Bull Ring. It's round number 5 for the MSA GT3 Series for 2023. My name's Gary Fleming, and alongside me, the voice of West Province Motorsport, Frankie Yennis, and we'll be bringing you the necessary coverage on this one. 6 minutes 46, that's gone already, and you can see the names, which is in the duller color on the left-hand side of your screen. That's the people that have already completed their laps as such. The guys that are still out there that are still trying to go just a little bit quicker. Well, Tristan de Nobrega goes and stops on circuit. Zach Foster is just idling his way around. He's also completed his laps. And, oh, Chase Herald pops up. That's a nice time for Chase Herald. Just outside of the top 10, one of the last guys that's finishing off their qualifying laps. And Zach Foster is just about the only guy that's furthermore still out there. Let's see if we can pick up Zach. He's on his way around. Is he now on his second lap? Well, seeing his 21st on the board, I would probably think that he is on his second flying lap, and he's in the Mercedes-Benz out there. So a mixture of Ferraris, BMW, Porsches, and Audis that you see out on circuit. I don't see anything outside of that. That is the chosen vehicles. And once we get to the end of the 10-minute session for the qualifying, we'll get the grips up for you, and then we will go into the... Yeah, I think he's backed out of that one. He's realized it's not going to get any quicker than that. He slows it right down, and that's about as far as what he's going to go with that one. So, interesting stuff. Umpi Swart on the front row of the grid with Julian Familiaris. Oh, that's going to be brilliant. Top 16, Frankie, all within 1 second of one another.
Yeah, you can basically go up until about 19.
Yeah.
Within that second, or just a touch over that second, with Duplessis and Foster 1.1. So that is the top 21. Oh my word, there's 26 you see there. There's apparently 29 that entered this one. Janeman Prius sitting 1.9 off the pole sitter, and he sits there in that 26th position. Does Janeman Prius. But it's a star-studded field that I can tell you for nothing. 1 minute to go before the official end of the qualifying session. Although I don't think we'll see any more cars out on the track in any case. But yeah, the time has to tick itself out. And then we will get the grid. And then 90 minutes of action on this track. 45-50. I would say anything from 50 minutes on, we'll see the regular pit stops. There are going to be drivers out there that are going to clatter into each other. somewhere within the first lap or two. It normally happens, and
Is
they're
that
going to
your
have to
word?
dive into the pits.
Is that your word for the day? Clatter into one
Well,
another.
they're going to clatter into each other. They're going to do a touch more probably, but we'll stick to the word clatter.
Okay, so that's Frankie's word for the day. They will clatter into one another. So for those of you that have just joined us, and I'm just looking on the screen here, on my subsidiary screen, there is in excess of 130 people on all our different platforms that have already joined us for the MSA GT3 Series 2023, round number 5 from the Red Bull Ring. And let's have a look-see. How's that grid going to play itself out? Well, there we go. There is your grid. It's Umpi Swart and Julian from the RS, from Luke King and Byron Mitchell, Jason Kutsia from Leighton Ferry, Stefan Vessels and John T. Weiss, Troy Dolanchik and Luke Lekesi rounds out the top 10.
Chase Harold and Johan Fourie, row 7, Tristan de Nobrega and Jacques Boerta, followed there by Graham Stephen, Gerald Fourie, JJ van der Merwe, Willem Boerta, Andrew Thomas and Stephen Duplessis. That is the top 20 positions out there.
Below that, Zak Foster, Leon van Wyk. Zak Foster can definitely go further towards the front. Peter van der Spey, Alan Sykes, Raymond Duggan, Janeman Prius. He was racing in a race that I watched last night. Stephen Cakebrey, Sandra Bakari, Duncan Marie and Corne Breed. Duncan Marie and Corne Breed, the only two guys that have not put up a lap time as such. And they will then be starting off the tail end of the pack. And oh, this is going to be something else. Frankie, I'm going to say this is probably going to be one of the best that we're going to see for the 2023 season. Luke King,
yes,
not on the grid yet.
That's what I'm pointing at the screen here. Luke King still needs to grid. Otherwise, the first 25, as a matter of fact, all 29 other cars have gridded, except for Luke King. And this is the last. There he is. There he is. Bit of panic stations there by Luke, but all is well. Let's go do this. Canvas Intelligence. This is the big one.
Yep, the National Series, 60,000 rands worth of prize money. On the front row of the grid, Umpi Swart and Julian from the RS, Luke King and Jason Kutsia on the second row, Byron Mitchell from Leighton Ferry, Stephen Vessels and John T. Weiss, Troy Dolanchik and Luke Lekesi. Chase Harold's going to be in there with that one. That is your top 10 as they work their way around behind the pace car. And, oh, what a lovely sight that is. South Africa's best, going one-on-one.
Yeah, they're behind the Porsche Cup car. That's the safety car that is leading this field of 30 GT3 sports cars around the circuit. A big thanks to Canvas Intelligence, a big thanks to Motorsport SA, and to Second Gear Productions. Right, the safety car's in. The safety car's in. It's 90 minutes of mayhem as the lights go green. And away we go. The 2-3 Durant Motorsport cars are sitting first, second and third. That's Swart, Familiaris and Mitchell at this point in time. Then the first of the non-Durant cars are sitting there in P4. That is Luke King. Jason Kutsia is one of them, but he's a little bit further down the field. There's Luke Lekesi for Pantera Racing and Race Driver SA. Then we've got Byron Mitchell that's there in that third position. The Durant cars are going to want to try and get away. Chase Harold is eased off the circuit there. He rejoins again, does Chasey Harold, but he has lost a bit of ground. He sits there in that 9th position, Gary, as the Durant boys are sitting first, second and third.
I don't believe we've ever seen that kind of situation to date. But, well, we're lucky to have it this time around. That is the way it is. Look at that. That is the gaps that we have between the different drivers up front. Umpi Swart doing it all right, leading out from Julian from the RS and then Byron Mitchell.
Right, so there you can see on that track map, look at that. It's one long crocodile that's working its way now towards that second last corner of the Red Bull Ring. Being led out there by Swart, Familiaris and Mitchell. Dolanchik sits there in that 7th position. Jacques Boerta was attacked there by Johan Fourie, I believe. There is Willem Boerta. He sits in there behind JJ van der Merwe. Stefan Duplessis sitting there in that 21st position. But we go back to the front runners, and Umpi Swart, 130.962 is the quickest man out there. And the 3 Durant Motorsport cars have been chased down there by Mitchell and by King.
Sitting on board with Leighton Fourie as he works his way into the turn number 2, and that is the Remus corner. It's Leighton Fourie sitting behind Luke King, Byron Mitchell, Julian from the iRSA, and Umpi Swart. That's what you see in front of him. But if you look back from his car, there's a whole row that's coming through behind that. Jason Gutierrez once again in the top 10 with Troy Dolenchik, Chase Harold, and Luke Lucchese with Tristan de Nobrega, the next man that's in behind that.
Yeah, and you've got some big names a bit further down. You've got Graham Stephen, that sits there in P12, Willem Botha, P14, Andrew Thomas sitting out there in P15, and Gary, there's a couple of stragglers that's making their way around. I do not see Johan Fourie's name in that top 25. So I think he might have had a problem out there.
Yeah, at the back end is Cornel Breed, John Device, Stephen Vessels, and Johan Fourie. That is the guys that have dropped down. In fact, Johan Fourie 15 places down. So Johan Fourie went off track, and everybody went past him. Let's have a quick shot at that, because that's one of the biggies that we've lost out on, is in fact Johan Fourie. Let's see what happened. Oh, he just got tagged from behind. Nothing that he did wrong or whatsoever, and that's what took Johan Fourie out of it. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Umpi Swart leading out the top 3 Durant Motorsport entries.
Yeah, the Durant boys sitting first, second and third. Then they've been chased down there by Luke King, Leighton Fourie, and then Jason Kutsia. He is the 4th of the Durant cars, but he doesn't have that color scheme on. He's got the Mint Wrap Works wrapping on that BMW of his. There's Chase Harold. He's just under a tenth of a second, or just under a second behind Dolenchik, and right on his case is Luke Lucchese in the 24 car. Then it's de Nobrega coming through. Behind him it's Jacques Botha. Have a look at this train of cars that's working its way through. Zach Foster is coming through as well. And then we see the 814. Well, that's another one. My word, there's so many of these Porsches out there that has got that very same color scheme.
Nothing much in that front 6, and it's Jason Kutsia in that 6th position. In fact, let's go on board with Jason Kutsia. That's what it looks like when you're lying in 6th position. Half a second between himself and the man in front of him. It's Leighton Fourie. In front of that is a Luke King. In front of that is the first of the Durant Motorsport cars. That's Byron Mitchell. Then it's Julian from the iRSA and Umpi Swart. Well, we've become accustomed to Umpi Swart being one of the best in any iRace and any main circuit race that we see him out there in.
Yeah, we'll see quite a few of these drivers next weekend at Algoa Motorsport Club at Aldo Scribanti for the next round of the Extreme Festival. We'll see quite a bit of these drivers out there. There's Byron Mitchell. He has got Luke King right on his case. There's Somaliara, 7/10 of a second between himself and race leader Umpi Swart. Julian sitting there in that 2nd position. They're getting slightly away here from Byron Mitchell. They are nearly a second, or just under a second ahead there of Mitchell, who's been hassled heavily here by Luke King, Leighton Fourie, and Jason Kutsia.
Oh, just look at that Linus. The first gap, in fact, is the 6th to 7th. That's Troy Dolenchik. That's lost a bit of ground on the back end of Jason Kutsia, but Jason holding on. That's Jason that just went past us now. That dark blue one that you saw, that was in fact a Troy Dolenchik. And there you see the dark blue one. That's Troy Dolenchik. In there behind him is Chase Harold. Behind that is Luke Lucchese. Behind that is Tristan de Nobrega. The multicolored one, that is Jacques Botha. Then the blue golf colors with the orange, that is Graham Stephen, the next one that comes through there. Oh man, I tell you what, brilliant stuff. 5.5 minutes gone already. Graham Stephen finds himself in the 12th position, but starting to make the move now. It looks like Leighton Fourie is starting to put the pressure on.
Yeah, he is sitting there right on the case of Luke King. He's a Leighton Fourie, but then again, the gaps are pretty much the same. The quickest man out there, 1:29.189. That is Yuri Umpi Swart. There is Leighton Fourie, and that's what the Luke King car looks like ahead there of Leighton Fourie. And there is nothing between Luke and Leighton at this point in time. As a matter of fact, that first 6, there is nothing between them. And then there's a 2.1 gap between Kutsia and Dolenchik.
Yep, well, that's lovely stuff. A little bit further back in the pack, Andrew Thomas has just made the move on a Willem Botha. and that was up on the inside line, and Andrew Thomas made that one stick pretty neatly. He actually made it look pretty easy in making that move, and well, he's starting to move his way up. Willem Botha behind Andrew Thomas. There you can see he's trying to have a look back. Well, frankly, that color of the 23, the driveway.com 23 car, there's about 5 guys that think that's a lovely color scheme and have all used that same color scheme.
Yeah, talking about Andy Thomas, he did pretty well last weekend at Western Province karting as well in atrocious conditions. But there is Leighton Fourie, and he is 2/10 of a second behind Luke King. And there's nothing in it. He's right under that wing there of that Luke King BMW. Is Leighton Fourie, your 2022 Comcare Volkswagen Polo Cup champion. Is Leighton Fourie sitting there right on the heels of Luke King as they work their way out of turn 1. Now it's that long run all the way up to effectively turn 2. And there you're hard on the brakes when you dive out to the right hand side. And can Luke King make a move here on Mitchell? Mitchell's losing a little bit of ground here to Swart and Familiaris as they're getting away from him, and he's got King, Fourie and Kutsia right there on his case.
I think that Byron Mitchell's got to have, Luke King's got to have a look out there for Leighton Fourie, because look at Leighton Fourie. Leighton Fourie's got to go some, because Jason Kutsia already up into that 6th position. I think he started in 7th, and he's doing a very decent job at this stage of the fight. But there's other battles that we're going to try and pick up as much as what we can. Luke Lekisi in that 9th position, trying to make a plan on the back of the uber quick Chase Herald.
Well, there's also a fight out there for P12. Graham Stevens sits there in that 12th position, and there's about 5 cars that's racked and stacked there behind Graham Stevens. We'll have a look at that one. There you go. Gerald Fourie sits there. There's Graham Stevens. There's Gerald Fourie. There's Andrew Thomas. Willem Botha, JJ van der Merwe, and the Mercedes-Benz of Zak Foster right in that fight as well. They're the 2 Mercs. One is van der Merwe, the other one is Foster. Then the white Porsche behind them, 1.9, that is Stephen Duplessis in that 2+3 post racing outfit, working his way around. Then Peter van der Spey, 2.8 seconds behind Duplessis in P19, and 3.1 behind van der Spey is Sandro Bakari.
Yep, and behind Sandro Bakari, there's the recovering Rian Fourie, 21st, Jan-Man Preus, Raymond Duggan, Stephen Kakefred, Leon van Wyk. They all in there. There's nothing much between them whatsoever. But I must say that let's go back to the front end of the field. Look at that. Umpie Swartz starting to make just a little bit of a stretch of the front end of the field.
Yeah, 1.1 between himself and Familiaris, which means absolutely nothing. Then there's 1.6 between Familiaris and Mitchell, but Mitchell has still got King, Fourie and Kutsia right there on his case as they work their way around. That's that train that you're looking at, Kutsia. They're just ahead of Kutsia. You see is Leighton Fourie. We're right aboard here with Leighton Fourie. He looks out his front window and he sees the Luke King BMW right there in front of him, and just ahead of King he sees the Durant Motorsport outfit. That's Byron Mitchell.
Well, another man that can make up a couple of positions without too much difficulty is in fact Zak Foster, because look in front of Zak Foster, JJ van der Merwe, Willem Botha, Andrew Thomas and Gerald Fourie. They're all racked, packed and stacked line astern behind one another. So if anything happens in front of him, he could quite easily make up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions, can Zak Foster, but even then he will not be in the top 10.
But remember, Zak didn't have a good qualifying. Zak started towards the back of the field, so I think he's made a good couple of positions up to be there in that 17th position with that AMG Mercedes-Benz. Have a look at this for trouble. That is the fight for Mitchell's 3rd position. And right behind him is Luke King. Right behind him we have got Leighton Fourie, and right behind Fourie we've got Jason Kutsia. 0.8 of a second between Fourie and Kutsia. Those BMWs of King, Fourie and Kutsia is right on the case of that Byron Mitchell Audi.
Look at Kesey desperately trying to get past Chase Herald. Last time we looked there was on lap number 6, and at that stage of the fight he was sitting right behind Chase Herald, but just couldn't make a plan at that point to get past him. and that's where he gets himself stuck. Now remember, the train driver, Tristan de Nobrega, he doesn't have a train behind him. He is on song, and there is Tristan de Nobrega rounding out the top 10. Just behind him is Jacques Botha.
Right, talking about the Nobrega, he was 2.2 seconds behind Jason Coetzee at one stage. It's now come down to 1.6. So Troy sitting out there in a P7 is beginning to close up on that fight, and that would be the fight for Mitchell's third position.
Yep, looking all over the back of that Byron Mitchell car. He's applying the pressure, but the other thing now, Luke King's got to now make up his mind. Okay, I've got Leighton behind me, I've got Byron in front of me. If I force Byron to run safer lines, that opens up the door for the likes of Leighton Fourie, Jason Coetzee, and anybody else that wants to come and join that fight. So he's got to be careful to slow him up too much in terms of fighting for that position. Maybe he must just let Byron run a little bit, try and take a couple of tenths every lap out of the guys behind them, in other words Leighton and Jason, and then go and fight for that position.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. Gaza, any of our viewers have anything to say? While I keep on commentating on this one, as they still work their way around Luke King. There's quite a few people I know at home that's watching us, so from us to you, good evening, and enjoy this production with us.
I know Emil Tiny Brandt has joined us. Mr. Swart Senior is, well, let's have a look at his young charge. Umpi Swart, Umpini Motors, representing Durant Motorsport, leading them out. The local frequent flyer, as always, is one of the quickest, and he knows how to stretch the boy's legs. There he is. It's Umpi, it's Julian, then it's Byron Mitchell, Luke King on the hunt, then it's Leighton Fourie, there comes Jason Coetzee. That's your front grouping. Troy Dolenchek a little bit further back, Chase Herald holding out the likes of Luke Lucchese. Then behind that is Tristan de Nobrega. He's slowly but surely closing. There's Jacques Botha, Graham Stephen, and there comes a long train behind that.
Yeah, Andrew Thomas is the first one. Then we have got behind Thomas, it is Willem Botha, Gerald Fourie, JJ van der Merwe, and Zak Foster. And Foster is 500ths of a second behind van der Merwe. He's, matter of fact, he's having a look. He's having a look at him. They are side by side, the two of them. Van der Merwe is on his left-hand side, and Zak Foster makes up another position, and Foster moves up there into P16, now 1.6 seconds behind the Porsche of Gerald Fourie.
Going back to Luke King, and he's still all over the back there of Byron Mitchell. Nothing much in it. Luke Lucchese is now starting to push the envelope. He's got to make a plan here with Chase Herald.
He's sitting right on his case there. He's Luke Lucchese, and if he wants to have a chance at that top 7, he's going to have to make a move on Chase somewhere. There's 0.3 of a second between Herald and Lucchese. Lucchese is right there. Chase Herald, on the other hand, is 2.8. Make it 2.9 seconds off Dolenchek. So right now, Chase is not going into attack mode. He is defending that 8th position from Luke Lucchese, making it hard for Lucchese to get past, but that also means that Chase is going to fall further away off that top 7.
Yep, there you can see they're starting to get a bit of a gap there now, but look at that. Graham Stephen, Andrew Thomas, and there comes Willem Botha as well. Gerald Fourie, normally a little bit closer up. He finds himself in a, let's call it somewhat lowly at the moment, 15th position.
Yeah, then it's Foster, and just behind Foster is Van der Merwe. Those two AMG Mercedes-Benz vehicles you see out there. Then behind him is Andrew Thomas, the man from Race Notebook SA, and Racebook Media. I do apologize. He sits there also, Carbs and Coffee, sitting out there in that 13th position. He's Andrew Thomas. Stephen Duplessis sitting all the way down in P18 with that number 5 Porsche. And then behind him is our resident pilot, Captain Peter van der Spy. He's been hassled heavily here by Johan Fourie. There's only 0.5 of a second between van der Spy and Fourie.
Well, Leighton Fourie under a lot of pressure because, look at that. What do? Do you go and pressurize Luke King and let the Jason get a little bit closer? If you get too close, you get into that slipstream. It makes it very, very difficult. 12 laps down, 16.5 minutes of the 90-minute race, 1 hour 30 in total. But you've got to give it up for this man in the lead. Look at that, Umpi Swart, he just stretches them out.
Yeah, he's nearly 2 seconds ahead of Familiaris, and Familiaris is 1.6 ahead of Byron Mitchell, and still he's got King, Fourie and Coetzee racked and stacked in there behind him. And here comes Troy Dolacek, only 1.2 off Coetzee, and still now he's having a look. Now look, Lucchese has a look up on the inside of Chase Herald and into that right hand. That's at the top of turn 2. He makes the move stick there on Chase.
How long? How long? Oh, he's going to go for it on the outside. Look, Lucchese and Chase Herald. Let's hope it doesn't turn to tears.
No, well, he hasn't got the legs there on Luke, so he has to pull in there behind him. But closing up on them is Tristan de Nobrega. He is 1.4 off King. He's 1.4 off Herald, and of course Lucchese. So Tristan de Nobrega is the man that's on the move. There is Andrew Thomas right on the case there of Graham Stephen, and then behind him is Willem Botha and Gerald Fourie, followed by the two Mercedes-Benz cars of Zak Foster and JJ van der Merwe.
So Gerald Fourie still in that 15th position, Frankie. I'm sure he would expect to have been just a little bit further forward.
Yeah, he'd like to be a bit higher up, Gerald. There he comes through with that 99 car. And working his way through, chasing down Willem Botha, and just ahead of Willem is Andrew Thomas. And then I must say, closing up on Foster they both closing the gap there on Gerald Fourie, as a matter of fact. So yeah, Graham Stevens got his work cut out, because there's that train of 4 cars behind him, and here comes Thomas. Thomas is side by side with Graham Stephen. The two of them are side by side. Into that slight left-hander they go, and it is Thomas that makes the move stick there on the top left-hand side of your screen on the track map. He moves up now into that 12th position.
Oh, we got to go back to this one. Look at that. Byron Mitchell, Luke King, Leighton Fourie, Jason Coetzee. I almost think that Jason Coetzee could sit a little bit closer, and I think he knows he's quite safe ahead of Troy Dolacek. He's got a second between himself and Troy Dolacek, and he's got nothing to really gain by pressurizing on the back of this group. I think he's hoping that something's going to pop in that grouping, and then, well, let's see what happens from there.
Yeah, this is going to be good stuff, because those BMWs that are sitting 3, 4 and 5 is right on the case of the Audi R8 of the third place man Byron Mitchell. Now the question that I have to ask, and I'm probably wrong, is this a Durant Motorsport team tactic for Mitchell to back them up and for Yuri and Julian to disappear down the road? We won't know what the Durant Motorsport boys are saying to each other.
Well, anything's possible at this stage of the fight, but I mean, who's going to give themselves up for the rest of the team? I don't think so. I think it's pretty much every man for himself. Oh, this is getting very, very tight. Looking Leighton Fourie and Jason Coetzee, nothing much in it, but it looks like Chase Herald is actually losing ground now too. Look, the Kizzy is 8/10 off. Willem Botha is getting very close on the back there of Graham Stephen.
But as you have a look at this fight out there, there's Willem Botha in that 14th place, chasing down Graham Stephen, chasing down Andrew Thomas. That is that group. Then Foster and van der Merwe, the two Mercedes-Benz cars in P16 and 17, not too far behind these group of Porsches. And then there's an Audi R8 in between the 3 Porsches as well, followed there by the 2 Mercs. So it is still Andrew Thomas that sits there trying to keep this lot behind. There's Dolacek now. Now he is a second behind Jason Coetzee. So Troy Dolacek for Sujin Properties has caught this group of cars ahead of him, and he's okay, because there is 4.5 seconds between himself and Luke Lucchese. So he's alright for now. He's got the best seat in the house so far as Dolacek to keep an eye on this lot. And knowing Troy, the young gun is not going to hang around. If he can find a gap to shove that BMW's nose in somewhere, if he's close enough, he certainly will do that.
Well, let's have a look at one of very few incidents that have actually happened in this race. That's Leon van Wyck's incident. And there's actually been very, very few incidents on our camera shot series. There you see he gets turned around. That's one of those things. Elton Sykes also had himself a moment a little bit earlier on in this event. Oh, just two guys fighting for the same piece of track. Jonty Weiss was one of the guys that also just tried a little bit too hard, and he turns that GT3 BMW around. Raymond Duggan also had an incident earlier on. Let's just see what happened to the Toyo Tires entry. Coming down into the braking markers, has a look up on that inside line, and yeah, he just ran wide all by himself. Just a little bit too late and too hard, but he brings it all back together, and all's good that ends well. So here we go. It's that's what it looks like for Umpi Swart as he looks out the front window. No problem whatsoever. It's open road in front of him.
Yeah, he's got a bit to go still, because the first two back markers that he'll pick up, I just saw it there now. Gary moved off him to P6. He'll be picking up the first as back markers within about 30 seconds or so. Umpi will be picking up the guys in P26 and 27. That is who he will pick up. But here comes this train of BMWs. There's Jason Kutsia. Just behind Jason Kutsia is Troy Dolacek. Ahead of them is Luke King, and ahead of Luke King is Leighton Fourie. So it's 4, 5, 6 and 7, all BMWs, and they're chasing down the Audi R8 of Mitchell. But Mitchell is now getting slightly away from Leighton. There's 1.2 seconds between Mitchell and Leighton Fourie. So Byron beginning to open up a little of a gap at this point in time, but that doesn't really mean much. It's now only just 1.1.
Oh, it just doesn't get any closer than this, and all of these guys on amazing pace. We're not yet a third of the way through. 23 minutes of the first 30 minutes that has gone through so far. Umpi Swart from Julian, Byron, Leighton, Luke, Jason and Troy. Luke Lukizi having eventually got past Chase Herald and now taking 2.9 seconds out of Chase Herald. Remember that, 4.6. That's what Luke Lukizi's got to do if he wants to go and catch the youngsters up front.
Yeah, we're sitting here with Troy. Remember at one stage, folks, it was 2.2 seconds. It's now 0.3 of a second. So Dolacek is right there on the case of Jason Kutsia, and he is now close enough to lunge. The thing is, if you lunge and it doesn't work out, you are in deep trouble, because remember that Fourie, King and Kutsia are right in there with each other, and if Troy makes a move and it doesn't work out, then he will drop down the leaderboard and those guys will disappear down the road. So whatever Troy does or doesn't do, he's going to have to think very carefully about it, because those 4 BMWs, including himself, is hunting down that Audi of Byron Mitchell.
It's actually quite amazing how close they are after 24 minutes and 17 laps. Look at that. It's they're just sitting line astern. Are they just following through at this stage of the fight and waiting for an opportunity? I think if anybody could get past, they would have gotten past by now.
Well, it's an hour and a half. You've only done 25 minutes, so it's quite possible that they're just running out the time, staying in there, not going to do anything silly at this point. Don't do anything stupid. Wait until the pit stops come, and then as we get closer to the 90 minutes, all depending where they are on the circuit, then they will obviously go for their gaps and their chances. Right now, it wouldn't be the smart move to do any of that with only 25 minutes done. There's still a long way before they see the checkered flag.
Umpi Swart from Julian and Byron. There's that train that Frankie was talking about. Leighton Fourie from Luke King, from Jason Kutsia, the next man. Then there's Troy Dolacek. Now, visually, where is Luke Lukizi? Let's have a look back. There he is. There's Luke Lukizi. And the gap from Luke Lukizi to the man he lost past Chase Herald. Justin Nobriger doing a good job to start catching up. There is Jacques Botha also getting a little bit closer. Then there's a gap thereafter, and there comes that next train of cars. That's Andrew Thomas from Graham Stephen, the two lookalikes, Willem Botha and Gerald Fourie, and then behind that, Zach Foster. Keep in mind, we haven't said the name of Johan Fourie yet, Stefan Duplessis, and then the recovering Johan Fourie.
Yeah, he's 0.5 of a second behind Stephen Duplessis is Johan Fourie. So that P18 will certainly go to Johan sometime. The question is, where do you go from there? I don't know if he's made a pit stop yet. You can have a look at the pit stops if anybody has made pit stops. I think there might be a few, none of them.
Not in the top 25.
So even those that were caught in that schmozzle at the beginning, even they didn't go into the pits. Now, who will blink first? 26 minutes? Not now. I would say 50 minutes onwards we'll start seeing the first moves.
Stefan Wessels and Leon van Wyk, the only guys that have actually been in the pits, and they are right at the tail end of the field. Troy Dolenchik starting to put the pressure onto Jason Kutsia.
Yeah, there is some pressure coming here from the Sujin Properties driver in that BMW. Troy Dolenchik sitting out there in car number 17 and P7. And just have a look at this for nothing. Not too far behind them, only 4.8. You just saw that Porsche looming in the background. That is Luc Lecchesi. You might even see him. There he comes. That 24. He's got clear track to catch them. And then behind them is a Chase Herald. And right on his case is a Tristan de Nobrega. Here's this train of BMWs coming through. Here comes Luc Lecchesi. As we go back to that train of BMWs at the tail end is Dolenchik. Here comes Luc Lecchesi. He's getting closer and closer. Well, not quite. There's still 4.8 behind them.
A bit of a problem for Stephen Cakebread.
Yeah. Stephen just getting that BMW, stepping out, coming out the final corner and hammering the Armco barrier.
Yeah, that was pretty hard. So with 28 minutes that's gone, Umpi Swart, look at that, he just leads them out handsomely.
Yeah, Umpi Swart sitting out there in a P1. Familiar still in that second position. Here comes a move. Here comes a move. And they are trying as hard as they can, going into that right-hander. As a matter of fact, Dolenchik has got his nose ahead of Kutsia. Dolenchik has gone up to P6. Jason Kutsia has dropped down to P7.
Let's have a look at that move. How exactly did that happen? Troy Dolenchik stayed on the line. Oh, did Jason Kutsia open? That's strange.
Yeah,
I think maybe Jason Kutsia realized this, and Troy's going to end up going right through me if I don't let the man go through, because it definitely looks like he opened up. Maybe you'll find Troy Dolenchik climbed the radio and said to him, listen, bud, let me go. Let me go and see if I can get to the loop. Try and follow me through. Use my slipstream, and then see if we can work our way up this list of cars. We're almost a third of the way through this race.
Yeah, we're approaching the half an hour mark as the leaders go through. This is that whole group from Mitchell all the way down to Jason Kutsia. There's Mitchell, there's Leighton Fourie. There you see Luc Lecchesi come through. We just caught a glimpse there of a Chase Herald that is right there behind him. And then Tristan de Nobrega, Jacques Buerta coming through with that very brightly colored Mercedes-Benz of his. Then Andrew Thomas coming through behind him. We have got Graham Stephen, Willem Buerta, Gerald Fourie in there, Zak Foster and JJ van der Merwe. That is that group of cars you saw going into that right-hander.
Troy Dolenchik starting to close with the Sujin Properties car on the back end of Luke King. I think he's broken the initial toe from Jason Kutsia, and I think Troy Dolenchik is right now pretty much the man on the move. But don't forget about Leighton Fourie. Leighton Fourie has not given up on the back of the first of the Durant Motorsport cars, being Byron Mitchell from Julian, and then Umpi up front.
Well, if I was a gambling man here, I would put my money on Troy. He's not afraid to stick his nose in anywhere. If he finds a half a gap, he'll put his nose in and go for it. This youngster oozes talent. Well, all of them ooze talent. Each and every single one of them you see on that leaderboard from top to bottom. Here is Mitchell, that's there in that third position, 3.4 behind Familiaris, and he's been hassled heavily there by Leighton Fourie, 0.5 of a second between Byron and Leighton. Then behind him, just in the distance, you see Luke King, 1.1 off Fourie, and only 0.2 of a second behind Luke King in P6. There you just see the blue BMW, that is Troy Dolenchik.
Well, good evening to Kelly Fletcher. She's busy watching her favourite man there. Good evening to Umpie Swart Senior, to Emil Brandt from Tiny's Pitbox, to Rory Charles, that's also in there as well, and then Zane also joining us. So to all of you guys, Rodney King, Shannon Marks, all of you, welcome and enjoy this Canvas Intelligent GT3 MSA South Africa, Motorsport South Africa. 31 minutes gone of the 1 hour 30, and none of the big hitters, none of the top 20 have been into the pits yet.
Well, if Kelly's busy watching this one, then I'm sure Byron's dad, Gordon, is also watching somewhere. I'm sure he's also keeping an eye on his youngster out there. He's Gordon Mitchell, that is watching Byron sit there in that third place. And he's got a huge train of them that is tucked in there behind him. And that train has been led there by Leighton Fourie from Lou King, from Donacek, from Kutsia. That's all the way down to P7 as they work their way around. The leaders heading towards the second final corner here at the Red Bull Ring, previously called the A1 Ring, as they work their way now towards the final corner. That's his mid-pack that we're having a look at now. Gerald Fourie sitting there in that 15th position. He's chasing down Willem Botha, who was chasing down Graham Stephen. Thomas is now beginning to pull away from Graham Stephen.
So Frankie, I would tend to think that we're probably going to have one pit stop for everybody, barring unforeseen circumstances that you have to stop more than once. Where does that start? 45 minutes would be halfway through. Knowing Johan Fourie, he'll be one of the first guys that goes in.
I see Van der Merwe's Merc. I'm missing Zak Forster. He is dropped all the way down to P19, Gaza. He sits there behind Johan Fourie. So I'm not sure what happened out there. Well, that is what happened to Zak Forster.
Too many right pedal. That's when they say ambition exceeds adhesion, and that's what happens. Oh, trying to stay out of everybody's way, and by the time he gets it going, they just all piled past. And well, Duncan Murray had an off circuit now as well. We'll see if we can pick up that one for you. Let's just see what happened to Duncan Murray.
Oh, that's the Goldwing Motorsport Ferrari.
Oh, just a little bit too much circuit. Lovely set of rims on that motor car, I must say. So he recovered that well pretty quickly. So let's go back to the front end of the field. Don't forget about that guy. He's driven into Thursday morning already. He's on his way to work. Umpie Swart, there goes Julian from iRSA. Here comes Byron Mitchell, Leighton Fourie, Luke King, Troy Dolanchik's in the game. Jason Kutsia is right there as well. How far back has Luke Lukizi come from? He's come from a long way. 4.5, now it was 4.8. Chase Herald has dropped 4.8 off the back of Tristan de Nobrega, the train driver. And then Jacques Wood is the next man to come through. 6 seconds further back, there comes Andrew Thomas. Graham Stephen, that was the cue that we were just watching now. Graham Stephen from Willem Botha, from Gerald Fourie. That's the guys coming past the start-finish line. 35 minutes gone of this 90-minute race. Round number 5. SA Motorsport South Africa, iRacing South Africa, and this is for the big one, the GT3 Series, for 60,000 rands worth of prize money, and that supplied by Canvas Intelligence, the one and only sponsor for the series.
Yeah, a big thanks to Motorsport South Africa and to Second Gear Productions as well. Right, here we go. Graham Stephen has got some work to do. He's defending that 13th position from Willem Botha, Gerald Fourie, and that lime green Mercedes-Benz of JJ van der Merwe, with 2.5 seconds off Fourie, as Willem Botha sticks it in under that wing there of the Graham Stephen Audi, saying, come on, get a move on. This group is now making its way into that centerpiece of the Red Bull Ring, as Botha sits right on the case there of Graham Stephen. And they are now heading towards that right-hander. Then they'll climb the hill slightly and then go into a right-hander, which is the second last corner of the Red Bull Ring.
Umpie Swart, that leads them out still, and without any problems whatsoever for Umpie Swart. There's Julian Famare still in second position. Then Nothing much between them. Byron Mitchell, Leighton Ferree, Luke King, Troy Dolenchik, as quick as you can say the names. And Luke Lucchese has dropped back. Luke Lucchese was on 4.8. He went down to 4.5, and Luke Lucchese is now back up to 5.4 seconds. That Luke Lucchese finds him off the back end of the pack. But still quick enough to stay ahead of Chase Herald. He's now taken 5.2 out of Chase, who's coming under pressure from Tristan Nobriga, Jacques Buerta, and then Jason Coetzee. Frankie, he opened up earlier on for Troy Dolenchik, and he just hasn't got the pace anymore.
Yeah, he's dropped all the way down to P11, 1.4 off Jacques Buerta, and he is idling that 77 Durant Motorsport BMW around the circuit. I'm not sure what the problem is. As a matter of fact, he's been caught there by Andrew Thomas of Racebook Media. Andrew Thomas is getting a whole lot closer there to Coetzee. So is this where Jason Coetzee dives into the pits? We'll have a look at him. He's in that 11th position. He's working his way into the second last corner of the Red Bull Ring. Let's have a look and see. Will he pit? Yes. 37 minutes done. He pits, and clearly there's some kind of an issue for Jason Coetzee.
The first of the big hitters in that group to go through is going to be Willem Buerta. That's taking Gerald Ferree with him, and they all go past Jason Coetzee. JJ van der Merwe is going to work his way past as well. So that's the first of the bigger names that is now dropping down, and Jason already down to that 18th position. Call that 19th, and Peter van der Spey will go past as well. So Jason Coetzee is still in the pit lane. It's going to look like it's going to be a long stop for Jason Coetzee.
Yeah, I had a look at Willem Buerta. Willem Buerta looked to me as if he was going to go and have a look there at Graham Stephen. Yeah, we're still looking at Jason. That's there in pit lane. As a matter of fact, he is having a look at Graham Stephen, and he's got him. That we almost missed that overtaking maneuver. I did see him pull out before we went to the pit lane shot, and he did have a serious look there at Graham Stephen, and Willem has made the move stick there on Graham Stephen. Now it would probably be Gerald Ferree's turn to try and make the move there on Graham Stephen.
Troy Dolenchik is still not giving up on the back end there of Luke King. Luke Lucchese 5.5 off the end of Dolenchik. So Luke Lucchese not been able to move his way further up the pecking order. Umpi from Julian and Byron, the three of them have now got a reasonable gap between themselves and the rest of the pack, except one problem child for them, and that is Leighton Ferree.
Yeah, Leighton Ferree sitting there in that 4th position, and 0.5 of a second behind Byron Mitchell is Leighton Ferree, and hanging back a little bit there is Luke King, and he's got Dolenchik right there on his case, and just over 5 seconds behind Dolenchik is a 24 Porsche of Luke Lucchese. But still that fight is going on here, Gary, for P12. Graham Stephen, remember, you got overtaken there by Willem Buerta. Willem Buerta is not getting away from him. As a matter of fact, Buerta is just ahead of him. Back out on track again is Jason Coetzee, but he's in 27th position, and they're going to put a lap there on Jason Coetzee.
Time to go for the move on Luke King. It's Troy Dolenchik up on the inside line. Luke King goes to take the faster line, and he realizes he's not going to hold the frequent flyer out that easily. And Troy Dolenchik moves up yet another position. And, well, now, keep in mind, 2 seconds between himself and Leighton. But is Leighton being held up by Byron Mitchell? Well, if you ask Kelly Fletcher, that's busy watching on iRSA on YouTube, she'll say no, Byron Mitchell's busy pacing himself.
Well, whatever they're doing it right so far. All of them out there. Mitchell sitting there in that 3rd place, but Byron and Leighton mustn't be too easy on what's happening out on track, because trust me, believe me, Dolenchik is coming. He's going to come for them any which way you can, and he is now 2 seconds behind them. That's going to shrink Jason Coetzee, that motor car, very loose, and he loses it, and he takes out JJ van der Merwe.
Yep, JJ van der Merwe that was affected by that one as well. So something on Jason Coetzee's car is not right. He was going very well, and then he started slowing down. He eventually literally opened up for Troy Dolenchik. So he obviously realized there was something wrong with the motor car. He was one of the first of the big hitters to go into pits. There I see JJ van der Merwe must have a lot of damage, because JJ van der Merwe has in fact gone into the pits now as well. So not a happy session in the latter part of this one for Jason Coetzee. 42 minutes, I think we're starting to head towards the pit window. But Frankie, I know you're going to tell me they're not going to gain on 45.
No.
They're going to go a little bit further,
Yes,
and try and have better tires towards the closing laps.
50 to 55 minutes, anywhere in that window, I think, is when the routine pit stops is going to take place. That's just my guess. Going on previous history, that's what they've done. Now King says, okay, Dolenchik, you need to get a move on, because I want your position. Luke King up on the inside. Dolenchik will defend all he can. That is coming out that top part of the circuit, turn
Remus.
2, as Dolenchik defended there from Luke King. So Dolenchik knows now that Luke King wants that position right back.
Oh, I think they must have just made light contact there as they were under the braking marker. But Troy Dolenchik is very, very accurate. Luke King, we know, can be blindingly quick as well. And he hasn't accepted the fact that Dolenchik has gone past him whatsoever. Leighton Fourie, we've got to go back to that one. Leighton Fourie, he's obsessed with that back wing on the Byron Mitchell car. He wants past, and he wants past back. Oh, look at that. How's that for closing the line off? You're allowed to move once.
Well, I think that's really clever moves there by Leighton Fourie. He went to go and sit way there in his blind spot, so that Mitchell had no idea where he is or what he's going to do next. So beginning to play the mind games here is Leighton Fourie on Byron Mitchell. There's Dolenchik. As a matter of fact, if anything, he's opened up the gap ever slightly there on Luke King. There is Luke Lucchese for Race Driver SA and Pantera Racing sitting in P7. Chasey Herald coming through. Behind Chase Herald is Tristan de Nobrega. Behind him on the lead lap is Jacques Botha, followed there by Andrew Thomas, that is on the lead lap. Then Willem Botha, and right behind him is Graham Stephen and Gerald Fourie.
Yep, that rounds out the top 14, and then not a happy race for that man. Johan Fourie having an incident right near the beginning. He got tipped on the back bumper going out of turn number 2, which was Remus. And from there on out, it was always going to be one big long fight back. Let's have a look at the gains and losses so far for the top boys. On the front row of the grid, staying on the front row of the grid, is Umpi and Julian. On the second row of the grid, and staying in that third and fourth position, was Byron Mitchell. Leighton Fourie moving up into the top 4 with the absence of Luke King that started on the outside of the front row of the grid.
Yeah, Jonty Weiss has lost 10 positions. Sandro Bakari, Duncan Murray, they've gained 9. A bit further up, Andrew Thomas has gained 8 for that matter. But so far, the biggest loser down 10 in P18 is Jonty Weiss.
Yeah, there's a couple of cars still further below that, but I think that's an unhappy story down there. So let's rather stay away from that. Luke King has not given up. Troy Dolenchik, he got past, but it's not said and done. And look at that battle just in front of them.
Well, there was a bit of a gap between them, and he's closed the gap there on Dolenchik has King. So here we go. Oh, there is Zach Forster back out on track, but can you believe it? He's in 22nd position and a lap down. Bad news for him. Luke King just moving around and showing himself there to Dolenchik. You know what? Troy is a seasoned main circuit driver for single-seater and a seasoned karter. A young man that's got Western Province colours for motorsport. So there's not much that Luke King is going to do that's going to phase young Troy Dolenchik. As a matter of fact, there's not much that's going to phase Byron Mitchell and Leighton Fourie neither. That's for sure. As they work their way past Zach Forster, that's now sadly a back marker. And here comes Dolacek, and he's been hassled once again here by the dot soft racing man Luke King.
Yep, going back from Luke King, Luke Lukizi finds himself in a pretty decent position. He's actually closed up a bit. He's down to 4.1 seconds from the car in front of him. He's broken away from Chase Herald. That was the last car that Luke Lukizi passed, was Chase Herald. Tristan de Nobrega staying ahead there of Jacques Buerta. Andrew Thomas having a pretty good race once again.
Yeah, I'm very surprised. Well done there to Andy. That sits there in that 11th position. There is Jacques Buerta. Now Jacques is beginning to get Willem Buerta, I apologize. He's beginning to get away there from Gerald Fourie. And ahead of Gerald Fourie, Graham Stephen. But Fourie is all over the back there of Stephen, as a matter of fact. And then here comes Johan Fourie. Now Johan Fourie is now 4.7 off that fight between Graham Stephen and Gerald Fourie. But he's got two back markers ahead of him, of which the first one is Alwyn Sykes. For Johan Fourie to clear, there is a Stephen Duplessis 4.2 behind Fourie, and there is Peter van der Spey 6.5 seconds behind Stephen Duplessis.
Jonty Weiss in that 18th position. He started off in 8th position, 10 spots down. Unfortunately for him, Sandro Bakari and Duncan Maria, they've been pretty close to one another for most of this race, and well, I don't think that fight is over either. And Sandro Bakari, one of the guys that puts lots of work in the background into iRacing in the last 2-3 years. Janeman Prius with Zach Foster a long way further back behind him. We've got to go back to Leighton Fourie. Look at that, Leighton Fourie, Byron Mitchell. Is that one going to play itself out in the pit stops? I think it's very possible.
Yeah, I think that's where it could chop and change. Who pits when, who does the undercut, who does the overcut, etc., etc. And I think that is where it could possibly play itself out. Luke King, once again, closing up there onto the back of Troy Dolacek. There is 0.3 of a second between Troy and Luke, as the two of them work their way through. And then the other Luke, that's Luke Lucchesi, 4.1 seconds behind the combination of Dolacek and King. There is Gerald Fourie, and he has still got Graham Stephen ahead of him. And there is 0.5 of a second between the two of them. And then that fight for 19th position between the two Ferraris of Sandro Bakari, and right behind him Duncan Murray.
I think Duncan Murray has decided it's time to go for that move up on the inside line. Sandro Bakari decides to take the safer route and try and get the drive out of the corner and try and fight back, but I think that was inevitable. That move was going to happen at some point, and there it actually happens. So having said all of that, let's have a look at the pit stops at this stage of the fight. None of the big hitters have been in, and Frankie, you said around about 50 minutes.
Yep.
That means around about now. So the man from West Province Motorsport, Cologne International Raceway, and so many other circuits around South Africa, he is our pit crew man in the commentary box tonight. He says from 50 minutes onwards, and his prediction has been very good, because most everybody that's gone in, Zach Foster, Jason van der Merwe, Raymond Duggan, Corne Breed, etc., below that, down to 31st position, it's all because of incidents which they've had up until now.
Right, so we hit that 50-minute mark. I'm saying the window is 50 to 55. That is my guess. May be right, I may be wrong, but that is my guess where they're going to start pitting. So any time from now forward is where you should start seeing the pit stops. They don't normally do 45. They push to 50, and then obviously if they can go a bit longer, well, then they will. By the way, we have a leader. His name is Umpi Swart. And
I was actually wondering if you remember him.
And he's 3.5 seconds ahead of teammate Julian Familiaris. The two Durant Motorsport Ferrari sitting first and second. Then Durant Motorsport Audi, that is Mitchell. He's got Leighton Fourie right on his case. Here comes Troy Dolacek right behind him in P5.
Oh, Dolacek's in. Dolacek's in.
Yeah, Dolacek has dived in. So, well done. Troy is the first of the big guns to hit the pit lane with 51 minutes gone.
Well, let's see how long it feels as you work your way down the pit. Oh, and they just come piling past you, and there's nothing you can do. You just got to keep on driving. And he goes and he stops on the line. Is that Jason Kutsia that's in front of him?
Yeah,
I
look
think
at
so.
all that
Very possible.
damage. I don't know if that's Jason. Jason's in a BMW. That's an Audi. That.
Let's try and see if we can pick up who that is. That's Steven Wessels and Leon van Wyk. They, in fact, are both standing in the pits at the moment now. So Julian van der RS, that's the view that he's got of Umpi Swart. He's keeping him in sight, but that's about as close as he can stay, because Umpi Swart is just stretching them out lap for lap, millimeter for millimeter. That is what he does best. Troy Dolenchik still in the pit lane. He has not left the pit lane yet. Oh, it feels like forever. He's still standing there. How long are these pit stops? It could be a major turn up in the books. I mean, he's already dropped down to 18th position. Does he have more problems? Let's see how long has he actually been in the pits. Let's have a look at the pit time.
Yeah, he's approaching a minute and a half.
That doesn't look right. There's something wrong. Troy Dolenchik should never be in the pits for that long. That's a major, major problem for him. Janeman Prius, in fact, now comes into the pits as well. Let's go back to the front end of the field. Whenabouts is Umpi Swart going to go in? Not on this lap. He's already started the next one.
Well, Dolenchik is out, and he's in a 20th position. He's Troy Dolenchik out on the circuit. He was in there for 1.5 minutes in the pit lane, 90 seconds. So, yeah, is that the length? Not normally. It doesn't take you 90 seconds to do fuel and tires. Either way, he's out on track. He's on the lead lap. Well, I think he's on the lead lap. No, as a matter of fact, he's behind Familiaris and Mitchell. So, Dolenchik has if my facts are right, he's a lap down.
Well, let's have a look and see if we can pick that one up. And let's just go there to the gaps between the guys.
Yes.
Well, there's the answer. 100%
he's the first
correct.
guy to go one lap down.
Can he possibly? Is everybody else going to go in for that long? Surely not. It seems too long.
I don't know. If that's the case, then this will play into Dolenchik's hands. I don't know. If I cannot see that 90 seconds was right. Something else must have gone there. However, let's have a look and see, because the leader is heading towards the final corner. That's Swart. Is he with nearly 54 minutes done going to hit pit lane?
No, sir, not yet.
He is not. As a matter of fact, Familiaris goes through, and so does Mitchell.
All of the top boys have actually come through. Where's Luke Lucchese? Is Luke Lucchese maybe going to come into the pits? No, he's already up to the GRS board, so he's going to go through. What about Chase Herald? Nope, Chase Herald's going to go past Tristan de Nobrega. Tristan goes through Jacques Poorter. Well, he's the next man. Yep, Jacques Poorter. So the first of the top 10 boys coming into the pits. Now the whole thing is, let's have a look, see exactly how long Jacques Poorter is going to be in the pits, but we'll be able to pick up that timing once he leaves the pits. Let's go back to the closest battle out there. 4th and a 3rd position, Leighton Ferree behind Byron Mitchell. Eagle Eye, Kelly Fletcher watching from home to see what her charge does out there on circuit.
Yeah, Graham Stephen is in pits, and Gerald Ferree's in the pits as well. The first of the top 10 in was Dolenchik, as you see them now beginning to make their way into the pits. That's that mid-pack group that is now beginning to pit. Those boys just outside of the top 10, hoping that they can gain a top 10 position by doing a quick pit stop. Here's Jacques Poorter, busy working his way around. Here's Golden Motorsports' Duncan Murray.
There you see all the cars. Frankie's standing in the pits, and he's going to jump all of them as he goes past them.
Yeah, but he's still going to have to make a pit stop, Duncan. He sits in P16. He's on a personal best of 130.327, but he has not made a pit stop yet, as we have a look and see Graham Stephen working his way out onto the circuit.
So the leading man that's been in and out of the pits is in fact Jacques Poorter from Graham Stephen and then Troy Dolenchik. So yeah, well, let's have a look at the length of those other pit stops. Let's have a look at the pit time. How does that one play? Oh, definitely out of sync. Troy Dolenchik 106. Maybe he made an error and he said let's take on tires and not just fuel. It's possible. We'll find out when the guys have a chat at the end of this race. So it looks like about 27 seconds standing time is what it's all about. Johan Ferree has gone into the pits as well. So let's hope that Johan Ferry can have a little bit of happiness after this one. Stephen Duplessis is already going into the pits as well. What about Captain Peter van der Spey? He says, you guys can stop and take a break. I don't need to go for a smoke and a pit stop yet. I'll just keep on coming. And Peter van der Spey finds himself in 11th position. But he is one of the guys that have not been into the pits yet. And we've got to go back to Leighton Ferry, all over the back of Byron Mitchell.
Yeah, there's going to be some good stuff out there. It's not done and dusted yet, that's for sure. Remember, these guys still have to make their pit stop. And Familiaris is in the pits, and so is Leighton Ferry. Both of them have now made their way into the pits, and Umpi Swart did not go in. He did not blink. The other two did make their way into pit stop. Luc Lecchese is also busy working his way in pit lane.
So Luke King works his way through. There you can see the other guys are standing in the pits. Luke King coming through. So Umpi Swart, Byron Mitchell, Luc Lecchese. Luc Lecchese is now in. Tristan Nobriga starts bumping himself up. But the top four, none of them have yet been into the pits.
Yeah, Chase Herald goes in. Andrew Thomas goes in. Willem Botha goes in. The guys are now all beginning to make their way into the pit lane. Here comes Andrew, here is Willem in the 23 working his way through, and Peter van der Spey finds himself there in 11th position. As is surely, no, he's not.
No smoke break.
He's going to work his way up the leaderboard, but work his way down the leaderboard again if he doesn't go in. And now, as Luc Lecchese works his way out of the pits onto the track.
Well, that in fact puts Luc Lecchese in third overall of the guys that have been in and out of the pits. Where is Umpi Swart? Umpi Swart working his way around. I tend to think he might go into the pits now.
He's in. He is in pit lane, 100% right. He is in pit lane. He's Umpi Swart. And
Byron
Mitchell follows suit into pit lane, and so does Luke King.
So Tristan Nobriga, the last of the front four. What is he going to do? Does he follow them through as well? They're probably coming to the end of the possible pit window for the amount of fuel they've got. If the big hitters have gone in, yep, he's going to go in as well. So that means that Julian Familiaris, if he can come through before anybody else comes out, no, he's not going to. I think that Luke King is in. Julian Familiaris, can he go to the front end of the pack? Umpi Swart is in. Luke King is in. Byron Mitchell is there. Tristan Nobriga is where is Julian Familiaris? Here he comes. Julian Familiaris has already been in and out, and he's going to go to the lead. I think Julian Familiaris is going to go to the front end of the pack. Umpi Swart has not. Yep, Umpi Swart has just come out. Umpi Swart's just come out on circuit, and Julian Familiaris, the next man in there behind him. Not far behind that will then be, there's Byron Mitchell. There is Leighton Ferry coming through as well. Luke King, the next man coming through behind that. Luc Lecchese has not come into picture yet. There he is now, Luc Lecchese. And then Captain Peter van der Spey. But remember, Peter van der Spey is the last man of everybody to still go into the pits, as Jonty Weiss is in the pit lane. Only Peter van der Spey still out there. Has he left it too late? Is he maybe going to run out of fuel, Frankie, and do what's known as the proverbial Mike Verrier?
Yeah, well, yeah, he's going to drop down that leaderboard, that's for sure, because the Nobriga, Harold, Botha, Thomas, these guys are going to get past him. So I think Captain Pete just left it a little too late, though. There is a Chase Herald, 0.5 of a second between himself and the Nobriga. That's there in that 8th position. There's Duncan Murray, and he sits just behind Andrew Thomas. And there is a back marker, that's Stephen Cakered, that they are busy working their way past. There's Graham Stephen. Graham Stephen is just behind Dollarcheck. And then behind them, 1.2 seconds, is the old walrus himself, Johan Ferry.
Yeah, in 16th position he finds himself at this stage of the fight is Johan Ferry. Can he make it up from there? Well, I think let's go away from the pit times. I don't think that's going to mean too much to us. Let's have a look once again at that gains and losses. Still, starting on the front row of the grid, and still 1 and 2, Umpi and Julian.
Van der Spey is in the pits. He's gone up 16 positions, but that's going to change as he makes his way into pit lane.
Got the next man coming through there is going to be Jacques Botha. and he will then come past Peter van der Spey. Then the next man behind that is going to be Andrew Thomas, and then I think Willem Botha is going to be the next one that's going to come through as well. So let's see. Yep, Willem Botha comes through. There you see Peter van der Spey on the right hand side, and Peter van der Spey dropping down the leaderboard, and there he is still in the pits.
And Duncan Murray is also in the pits. You see him just behind Peter van der Spey. He's Duncan Murray. So he had a good fight a bit earlier on with Sandro Bakari. There is Umpi Swart. Now he's got two back markers ahead of him. You can see Van der Merwe is the first one in that Mercedes-Benz, and then he'll pick up Van der Spey that's dropped all the way down to P19 and is still in pit lane.
Yeah, he'll be flashing the lights and saying, please, please, please do not hold me up. I've got Julian from the RS 4.5 seconds behind me, and he works his way past. He'll be super chuffed with that one, and takes the fastest line through there, does Umpi Swart. And so far so good for him. Julian from the RS just a little bit further back in a similar livery. He's just got the bright green stripes on his one as Julian from the RS. Byron Mitchell, the next one that's coming through, and then Leighton Ferry, Luke King, and Luke Lekesi just a bit further back.
Just have a look at Peter van der Spey. He's been in the pits for 110 seconds already. He's approaching 2 minutes in total. He's making his way out now, but he was in that pit lane very, very, very long.
So he was obviously fixing up problems there as well. Let's see, he's got one of the longest stops, 1 minute 35. That, in fact, the longest, even longer than Troy Dolenchik. So is that an error with the putting on tires and what have you? Or was that a case of fixing up? Well, we don't know, but either way, it's dropped him a long, long way back. So with 1 hour and 3 minutes, that is already gone. Let's run it down, Frankie, from the top end of the field. The man that's dominated from the front row of the grid. There he is. His name is Umpi Swart.
Sitting out there in P1 is Umpi Swart. He's nearly 5 seconds ahead of Miliaris, 4.8 to be exact. And then 1.4 behind him is Byron Mitchell. So the Durant Motorsport boys are doing it okay. They're sitting first, second and third. Here comes Leighton Ferry in that fourth position. Then we've got the back marker, that's Raymond Duggan. And Luke King is right on his case, gives him a bit of a punt and says, come on Duggan, get out of my way. I'm going to try and get my hands and my claws on Leighton Ferry. Here's Luke Lekesi. He is there in that sixth position, 4.8 seconds behind Luke King for Race Driver SA and Pantera Racing. He's that man in car 24. Working his way around. Then Tristan de Nobrega, nearly 11 seconds behind Luke Lekesi is de Nobrega in that Porsche of his. And then we see Chase Herald coming through, 1.3 behind him. And then the only top Mercedes-Benz driver out there, that is Jacques Witter, that you saw go through there. Dolenchik sitting out in that 11th position, and he is trying as hard as he can to catch up to Andrew Thomas, but he's 12 seconds behind Thomas.
Johan Ferry now getting into a situation where he can start making up positions. Look at that number of cars that there is directly in front of him. In fact, it's Graham Stephen and Willem Botha. So there's two people that he can catch onto pretty quickly if all is well in that motor car, and knowing Johan Ferry, it will be.
He's got a bit of work to do if he wants to get a top 10. He can get Graham Stephen. As a matter of fact, it's going to be pretty difficult for him to get a top 10. But yeah, for now, you see him sit there behind Graham Stephen. And Graham Stephen is 1.3 behind Willem Botha. You just see Willem Botha there ahead of him. And Willem Botha is going after Dolenchik. There's less than a second between Troy in P11 and Willem in P12.
Keep in mind that ahead of Troy Dolenchik, it's 12 seconds to get to the back end of Andrew Thomas. So if the boys in the top 10 don't make any mistakes, I think the top 10 will remain the top 10. It's for those guys to lose and not for the guys behind them to catch them, because the gap is just so big.
Look at the back end of Graham Stephen as Ferry makes a move on him. The back end of that Audi is completely rearranged. It's very much broken, the back end of the Graham Stephen Audi. So Johan Fourie did make the move there on the Graham Stephen. Graham dropping down now to 14th, Johan moving up to 13th. And there is Willem Botha just ahead of Fourie, and just ahead of Botha is Dollarcheck.
You can see in the reverse camera on Johan Fourie's dashboard to the right hand side of the steering wheel, you can see that's what 4/10 of a second looks like when you're doing 220 kilometers an hour. In fact, let's just have a look to see what is the kind of times and speeds that's been put up as we ride on board with Johan Fourie. 180, 190, 200 kilometers an hour on the brakes, go 2 gears down to 3rd gear, down to 120 kilometers an hour. That's the max that you can do on the N1, and he does that in that short piece over there. 140 as he goes through the corner, uses all the curbstone up to 170, 4th gear, 180, 190, over the 200 kilometer mark, still in that 4th gear, 220 up into 5th gear, feather it off down to, oh, God, almost got the back end, got away from him there as he goes through the complex of corners and drifts it down into the right onto the outside of the circuit. Let's see what kind of top speed you can pick up. We're going to 210, he's up into 5th gear. I see there's still 2 more gears to go, so the way the cars are geared, Johan Fourie picking up around about the 230 kilometer an hour mark as he works his way around. Just a bit of an idea of what it looks like from the outside. But Frankie, remember that guy we forgot about? His name's Swart. There he is, and he's got 5 seconds between himself and everybody and everything behind him.
Yeah, it's going to be a hard campaigner to catch in this one. As a matter of fact, I saw him at the Western Province karting section on Saturday. He was busy assisting one of the other drivers out there, and not doing karting himself. As we watch the cars work their way through, there is Luke Lucchesi. He's fighting there with one of the back markers. We'll have it, put the battle box back on again. He's trying to get past Raymond Duggan, as a matter of fact, and just ahead of Raymond Duggan is another back marker for Luke Lucchesi, and that will be Sandro Bakari. So yeah, Luke Lucchesi's got his work cut out. There is Byron Mitchell. Now he's in a lonely 3rd position. He's 2.4 behind Familiaris. There's Leighton Fourie busy coming through, and then we've got Van der Merwe. That is a back marker. Behind him is Luke King, busy working his way through. Then we've got Sandro Bakari out there, that is also a back marker. And then behind Bakari on the lead lap is that 24 Porsche of Luke Lucchesi.
So Sandro Bakari rounding out the top 20 at this stage of the fight. So the top end starting to get a little bit spread out at this stage of the fight. I mean, we are in the GT3 Series Canvas Intelligence sponsored 46 laps, hour and 9 minutes into the 1 hour 30. For those of you that have just joined us, this man has done an exemplary job out there. Oh, Peter van der Spey, before we go a little bit further, Peter van der Spey's had an off, so that's going down towards the Niki Lauda curve, and just picking up a little too much gas and turning himself around.
Oh, and then he got clipped by one of the other back markers, and the back bumper gets completely dislodged there off the 32 BMW.
Takes a bit of time to get that one turned around, but he gets it all right and gets it back out on circuit again. So Swart, for those of you that didn't join us from earlier on today, he's been doing it all right, as he normally does. That's what Swart does. He gets a bit of a gap, and then he slowly but surely stretches everybody out, and that's what forces a lot of the guys into mistakes. But when you've got the quality that you've got here, the guys don't easily make mistakes. They just drop a little bit off. Talking about a little bit off, there is Julian Familiaris. 2 seconds behind him, there comes Byron Mitchell, always there and thereabouts. Leighton Fourie, always there and thereabouts. Luke King, always there and thereabouts. Luke Lucchesi's managed to work himself up into 6th position, which is pretty good. Remember, Luke Lucchesi and Johan Fourie have slowly but surely been working their way up. Luke Lucchesi, that didn't qualify that well, that's been working his way closer towards the front end of the field. Johan Fourie, that got taken out right at the beginning and has done a massive fight back to get up to that 13th position. In fact, Johan Ferry is closing on the back end of Willem Botha.
Yeah, watching that one is 1.3 between Ferry and Botha. So that 12th place is definitely going to be his. The problem is when he gets to P12, there will then be 12 seconds before he sees Troy Dolacek. Now, Troy had that horror
in fact,
pit
no,
stop.
Frankie, no. It's from him to Willem. That's what you can see. The next car in front is Troy Dolacek. It's 12 seconds from Troy to Andrew Thomas. So he might still be able to get past Willem. To catch Troy is one thing. To get past him is another. I don't see that happening very easily.
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean.
Oh,
So,
into the pits.
Yeah, Johan is in the pit area.
No,
Willem Botha's in pit lane.
And that is Troy Dolacek. That's in front of him, and that's 3.2 seconds away. So Willem Botha, he must have been one of the guys that went in right at the beginning and can't make it all the way to the end. I'm pretty sure that if we have a look at the pit stops, that will be his second pit stop. Where is Willem Botha? No, that's his first pit stop. Well, then he is the last man to go into the pits as we still ride along this very long winding circuit with Johan Ferry. 3.1 from Troy Dolacek. Remember that number. It's an interesting one. Tristan de Nobrega too far back from Luke Lucchese to make any real impact there. Can Luke King pull one over Leighton Ferry? Well, we're going to find out in the next 17 minutes.
Yeah, Ferry 3.1 behind Dolacek. Can he catch Troy? Yeah, there you see Troy just ahead of him going into that left-hander. There's Graham Stephen behind him. 1.6 behind Ferry is Graham Stephen. There's a man in P5, Luke King, and he is losing a little bit of ground there. He's Luke King to Leighton Ferry, as a matter of fact. So what was very close up front until that 50 to 55 minute pit window has now opened up between all the drivers all the way down, and the gaps are now beginning to get big. There's only 1.2 between Leighton Ferry and Luke King, so Luke is not letting Leighton Ferry get away as we ride aboard with the Umpi Swart. He's just put a lap there on Duncan Murray. That's Duncan Murray behind him, but he is one lap down. And then Jana Mamprius behind Murray, and he's also at least a lap behind Johan Ferry. Umpi Swart that sits out there in a P1 for Durant Motorsport, coming around to start lap number 50.
Yep, there you can see all the guys that are one lap down from the top 18 cars still on the lead lap. Duncan Murray, JJ van der Merwe, Sandra Bakari, Jonty Weiss, etc. They are all on the one lap behind Mark aboard. But Umpi Swart, well, he has cried king on this one because, as always, he is just brilliant out there. He's so consummate, so calculated, so mature behind the steering wheel. I'd like to see him on an international stage in the not too distant future in iRacing.
So Umpi just saying thanks for coming, guys, have a nice day. He's 7 seconds ahead of Byron Mitchell, that is there in that second position. And then here you see Leighton Ferry coming through, P4, that is Luke King, and there they two of them go into that right-hander. There is Luke Lucchese in P5. Oh, the gaps is huge now. He's got a back marker ahead of him and a back marker behind him is Luke Lucchese. There is the Nobrega in that 6th position. He just put a lap there on Jonty Weiss. Chasey Herald coming up to catch Jonty Weiss shortly. Chasey in that 7th position. There is Jacques Botha sitting there in P8, and then P9 is Andrew Thomas. He just put a lap there on Raymond Duggan and is getting away there from Raymond Duggan. And then Dolacek sitting there in a P10. He is the last man to round off the top 10, and just outside the top 10 in P11 is Johan Ferry.
Yeah, two very big names in 10th and 11th position. Graham Stephen, I don't think he'll be too unhappy with the golf-coloured car as he works his way through there in 12th, and then thereafter there's big gaps. There is Stephen Duplessis, and then Gerald Ferry, the next man behind him. Behind Gerald Ferry is the likes of Willem Botha, and then Zak Foster. Also, you wouldn't have expected to see him that far down. 13 minutes 50 still to go.
But remember, Zak Foster had a problem, and he worked his way all the way up to about P14, somewhere around there. He was ahead of JJ van der Merwe, and then he had a problem which dropped him all the way down. So Zak is literally fighting his way back up the leaderboard again to be there in that 16th position, and he is trying to close up on Willem Botha, but he's a minute and 13 seconds behind Willem Botha, so there's not much he can do and will be able to do to catch up to Botha.
Let's just for interest's sake have a look at the what laps the different guys went in. And if you look at the top 10, Frankie, they are all pretty much between lap 37, 38 and 39.
Yeah, except guys that had issues out there. But yeah, it's all of them in the 30s. Duncan Murray came to pit on lap 40, so he kept it out for as long as he possibly could. Willem Botha, we thought, was the last guy on lap 38, but it wasn't. It was Duncan Murray to pit on lap 40.
Yep, so wow, it's been amazing. It's actually a bit of a relief that they are spread a little bit out now. Let's just see what has Umpi Swart got to contend with in the last 13 minutes. He's got Corne Breed and Captain Peter van der Spey. Corne Breed, the car is directly ahead of him. That's 1.5 seconds ahead of him, and then 10 seconds further up the road, Captain Peter van der Spey. And Peter van der Spey is one of the biggest gentlemen out there. There's no ways that he'll get entangled and involved with Umpi. So I think Umpi's pretty safe with 12 minutes to go at the front end of the field.
12 minutes left. Well, it started off very promising, and it took about an hour. And then all of a sudden, these monstrous gaps opened up between everybody else. There's only one there between Leighton Fourie and Lou King. There's 1.3 seconds between them, and that is that fight for a third position. Otherwise, it's pretty much very spaced out between all the drivers out there. De Nobrega coming through on his own. He's just put a lap there on Jonty Weiss. Here comes Chase Herald. He's the next man on the lead lap. Chase is sitting there in that 7th position, and there is Jacques Botha, and Jacques is 8.7 seconds behind Chase Herald. Raymond Duggan coming through. He lapped Thomas coming through. He just lapped Duggan, and he's getting away there from Duggan, that sits in that 21st position. There is Dolacek. He's going to still catch up to Duggan and put a move on him. And here comes Johan Fourie, and he's not getting away from Graham Stephen. There's only 1.1 seconds between Fourie and Stephen.
And then another 3 seconds further back to Stephen Duplessis, and then Gerald Fourie. Well, Gerald Fourie has been around the 14th, 15th place all night long and not been able to get any further forward than that. There's Willem Botha from Zak Foster, and then a massive gap back to Duncan Murray.
Yeah, Duncan Murray sits in that 17th position. Duncan Murray, and behind him is Familiaris that's going to put a lap on him. There is JJ van der Merwe that sits in that 18th position. He was overtaken there by Luc Lucchesi. There is Sandro Bakari in P19, and De Nobrega will be catching him soon. Remember, De Nobrega sits in that 6th position, and he's closing up there on the back marker. That is Sandro Bakari. There's Jonty Weiss. Jonty is in that 20th position, is Jonty Weiss. Here comes Raymond Duggan. He's in that 21st position, and he will be caught there pretty soon by Troy Dolacek.
22 seconds further back is Alwyn Sykes. 5 seconds back from that, visually you can see it, is Stephen Cakebread from Captain Peter van der Spey. And then rounding out the top 25, there is Corne Breed. He's got Umpi Swart that's just put a lap on him. You can see him going out of picture. And well, yeah, It's been some brilliant stuff, there's no doubt about it.
Yeah, big thanks to Canvas Intelligence for sponsoring this one. The MSA GT3 Series has Stephen Duplessis in car number 5 makes his way into a pit lane with an hour and 21 minutes done. He is back there in the pits, but with approaching 8 minutes on the clock to go, Yuri Swart has to do something really stupid out there to throw this one away.
And that's not one of his special powers whatsoever. As we see the man coming out of the pits, here comes second place, that's Byron Mitchell. Leighton Ferry in the same picture, as is Luke King. And then Luke Lekesi, who has closed up, but he's running out of time. There's only 8 minutes and 20 seconds still to go. I don't believe Luke Lekesi is going to go any further forward than what he is at this stage of the fight. Coming into that last corner, there is Tristan de Nobrega, and then Chase Herald, the next man behind him.
Luke King is now second behind Leighton Ferry. It was just under a second at one point in time, so that fight for P3 is not finished yet. As we ride aboard with Luke King, him and Leighton just getting past one of the back markers there, as Luke King goes to corner Breed and Janeman Prius. They were the two back markers that they passed. So Luke King now 9/10 of a second just behind Leighton Ferry.
Frankie, do you think he's going to try and go for a passing maneuver, put it all on the line to try and get onto the podium? I think so.
Well, of course, not a racing driver if you don't go for that move. And if there's a gap, if there's a move that can be made, surely Luke King will definitely go for it, that's for sure.
Well,
but
he was a
for
10th
now,
quicker on the last lap. Only a 10th, that's all that he could catch up. Let's see what happens this time around as they go across the line.
The thing is, you're not going to get past Leighton Ferry that easy. Catching is one thing, overtaking is another thing, that's for sure. But yeah, if he sees a gap, if the opportunity presents itself, then he will certainly go for the move, that's for sure. 8/10 of a second, heading up the hill towards turn 2.
Well, he's taking a 10th of a second over the last 2 laps, and given the amount of time that's left, you only got about another 4 laps still to go. I don't think he's going to be able to do it, but there is traffic up front. It's possible, although the likes of Duncan Murray, another full-on gentleman out there, I don't think that Duncan will have any effect on that battle.
No, he sits in that 17th position, and he won't keep them up and hold them up, that's for sure. As a matter of fact, they are right there with Duncan Murray now. That's that yellow and white Ferrari that you see ahead of those two BMWs, working their way through that left-hander. And yeah, so let's have a look and see. Right aboard here with Leighton Ferry, and he will now know that he's been pressurized heavily there by Luke King, 8/10 of a second. So Ferry would like to make the move there on Duncan Murray very quickly and try and keep Murray between himself and King.
Well, here's his chance as he gets the slipstream. He's down to 0.5. But yeah, I don't think he's going to get it in this corner. Maybe in the next straight if he gets good drive coming out of the corner. And remember, Luke King is just 0.6 behind him. So 0.5 to the car in front of him, which is Duncan Murray, the man that is going to try and lap. And 0.6 to the... Oh, there, Duncan Murray. As I said to you, Duncan Murray, another one of those gentlemen out there, sees the battle for third and fourth. They're driving behind him, and he says, guys, I don't want to mess up your race. There you go.
Well, he stayed out the way of Luke King as well, so that little plan didn't work to keep the back marker between himself and King for a while before King clears the back marker. Duncan Murray did the right thing and kept completely out the way. So this is the fight with 5 minutes to go for the last position on the podium.
Yeah, everybody else is pretty evenly spread out. But to my mind, driver of the day's got to go to this guy. He's been a class act all night long.
Yeah, he's done very well. As a matter of fact, Andrew Thomas is the name that's mulling around in my head for driver of the day. He sits in P9, gone up 10 positions, and Andy in the top 10. So he would be my nominee for driver of the day. But either way, it makes a difference. It's only just for fun, the driver of the day thing. Oompie sitting out there in P1, and he's got Stephen Cakebread and Zak Foster that he'll have to deal with soon.
There comes second place, and in fact there comes third place, and then not that far behind that, the next man that's going to come through is Byron and Leighton, and then Luke King just behind them. There's Luke King, and he's one position down. So Oompie started at the front, and looks like he's going to end at the front. Byron Mitchell, that started from fourth, is up into second. Leighton Ferry, that started in sixth, is up into third, having started started third, and down into fourth is Luke King. Having started in 10th on the fifth row of the grid, 5 positions up is Luke Lekezi. Tristan Nobriga having started in 13th position, and he's moved up 7 all the way up to 6th. That's a good one for him. Chase Herald starting 11th, just outside of the top 10, and he's got himself 4 places up into 7th. Jacques Buerta making up 6 positions. Andrew Thomas, you know what? Oh, that was very close.
Peter.
Yeah, that was Peter van der Spey. So, Frankie, yes, 10 positions up. If you think Duncan Murray is 12 up, but he's only up into a outside of the top 10 position, and then 10 positions up Andrew Thomas. In terms of the biggest gains, I think I'm going to go with you on Andrew Thomas. In terms of a consummate effort, I'm going to say Oompie Swart.
Another man that you've got to watch out for driver of the day is Duncan Murray. He's gone up 12 positions, but yeah, my nominee would certainly be Andrew Thomas. Right, however, that fight for P3 isn't finished. It is not done yet. Here comes Duncan Murray, and ahead of him there is Peter van der Spey, who is in 25th position. But this is the fight that we're looking at. This is the one between Leighton Fourie and Luke King for that final step on the podium, and there is 0.2 of a second separating the two of them. It's going to be very, very close between the two of them. They've just gone past Van der Spey and Duncan Murray, as you actually just saw that Van der Spey and Murray come through. Those are the 2 cars going through there, but it's not finished yet. It is not over until that checkered flag comes out for that final step on the podium.
Yeah, I think it's going to go right down to the wire. If you look at the diagram on the track, on the right hand side top corner, you can see just how they are spread out around the circuit. And Oompie with just 1 minute and 20 seconds to go. Here he comes across the line now, and will that be yep, that's for the last lap.
Yeah, there will be one more lap to go. You see there on the podium, there's a man waving a white flag, and that means there is one more lap to go. There's 1 minute to go, so that means every driver coming through now, be he on the lead lap or 1 lap or more down, they will have to circulate the Red Bull Ring one more time. Here comes Mr. Nobriga through to start his final lap, sitting there in P6. Chasey Herald coming across the line in P7 to start his last lap. Here comes the Mercedes-Benz of Jacques Buerta to start his last lap, but only 2.3 seconds behind him is that man, Mr. Andrew Thomas.
Yep, Troy Dolenchik, the next man, is going to come through there, rounding out the top 10 after that massively long pit stop that he had to do, and then Johan Fourie. But I think it's only right that we do the last half of the last lap with that man, Oompie Swart.
Yeah, Oompie Swart making his way down towards the second last corner of the Red Bull Ring, and victory will go to him. He is 6.4 seconds ahead of Byron Mitchell. Into that second last corner he goes. There's pit entrance on his right hand side. Through the final turn, flashes the lights, the checkered flag is out, and your winner is Yuri Swart of Durant Motorsport.
Yep, the second one through will be Byron Mitchell for Durant Motorsport. Then Leighton Fourie comes through. He held out Luke King at the end of the day, and the next man through, the first of the seniors, and that is Luke Lekezi.
Luke Lekezi coming home in P5, 13 seconds ahead there, nearly 14 seconds ahead of Tristan de Nobriga, as Tristan in P6 works his way over the start-finish line to finish his race, and 7.1 seconds behind him in P7, heading towards the flag, is Chase Herald.
Yep, not far behind him. A nice drive there by Jacques Botha. Very distinctive colours in that AMG Mercedes-Benz. From your driver of the day, Frankie, Andrew Thomas. You'll be pretty chuffed at that one. Terrible long time in the pits, cost him dearly. The frequent flyer, Troy Dolenchik, comes through, rounding out the top 10.
Yeah, he's in 10th position, and here comes the man that I would give the Fighting Spirit trophy for, Johan Fourie, getting it all wrong in the beginning, and just out of the top 10 in P11. Here comes Graham Stephen in P12, and Gerald Fourie crosses the line in that 13th position, followed there by Willem Botha and Zak Foster.
And that pretty much takes them all across the line. And yeah, pity there for Jason Kutsia that it didn't work out for him. Unfortunately, not a great one for Jason Kutsia. Something went wrong with the motor car, don't know what, and it just didn't want to work out for him at the end of the day, as everybody slows it all down. So the class act for the day, Umpi Swart. The brilliant dice goes for Byron Mitchell and Leighton Fourie and Luke King. The old man on the RDSA Pantera Racing side of the world, that's Luke Lukizi. That rounds out the top 5.
Yeah, then Tristan de Nobrega, a couple of big names further down that leaderboard. De Nobrega, Chase Herald in P7, Andrew Thomas P9, my boykie, my driver of the day. Troy Dolenchik all the way in P10, Johan Fourie P11, Graham Stephen P12, Gerald Fourie P13, Willem Botha P14. There's a lot of big names that is down that leaderboard. Zak Foster, that did so well, he also had to fight his way up. Eventually ends in that 15th position, ahead there of Stephen Duplessis, and Zak Foster was the final driver on the lead lap.
So you can see Jason Garcia, Steven Wessels and Leon van Wyk is the 3 guys for Durant Motorsport Racing Team Astra, and the being IT that didn't complete the race as such. Everybody else 2 or 1 or on the lead lap as such. But everything we expected, hoped for, wished for, wanted and more was what you saw here this evening. And Frankie, let's be honest, this is the cream of the crop in South Africa.
Yeah, next Wednesday we'll be back with you for the Porsche Cup. So we are looking forward towards next week, Wednesday.
Yep, and thank you very much for joining us. It's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. Big thanks to Canvas Intelligence. Big thanks to MSA for accepting the GT3 series. Big thanks to Jaco Steyn that does so much work in the background and in the forefront to be able to make the MSA and GT3 series and also the Pro-Am series exactly what it is, the premier 2 races in South African iRacing. From the Second Gear Production Studios down here in a very cold, very wet, but very friendly Cape Town, a big thanks to you one and all for joining us, and good night to you one and all.
iRacing is a sim racing game that combines a true-to-life racing experience with an online community of virtual racers from all around the globe. iRacing offers a multitude of officially licensed cars and tracks, laser scanned with millimeter accuracy. Their car models and mechanical systems are based on real-world physics, engineered in cooperation with manufacturers and race teams. Their skill license system ranges from rookie to pro, ensuring members are always pitted against those with similar skill sets. Members are able to sign up for a weekly race series, compete in time trials, host a private race with friends, and participate in racing leagues created and run by the community. With over 170,000 members, iRacing works in partnership with renowned motorsports organizations like NASCAR to deliver virtual races based on the real-life NASCAR Cup Series, as well as many other series on the NASCAR ladder. iRacing also features team racing, providing a variety of options for members to create and manage their own teams, race with friends or real-world teammates in full-length endurance events like the 24 Hours of Daytona, Spa 24, or the Bathurst 12 Hour. Additional partners include MSA, World of Outlaws, Supercars, and IndyCar, allowing members to race in their very own Indianapolis 500, Bathurst 1000, Chili Bowl, and many more iconic events. This is iRacing, delivering the most authentic racing experience short of getting into a real race car. Sign up today at iRacing.com.